So the other night, I'm watching a show on Netflix called Love on the Spectrum. And if you haven't seen this show, I think it's really interesting how it will illustrate something about, I'm going to share on how to gain a man's respect or how men feel will respect you. But what's interesting about this show is that these are autistic people, Asperger's, that sort of thing, some of them high functioning. And they're being matched up to find their soulmates, their love partners and such. And what's really interesting about the show is that many of the people on this show have never even gone on a first date before. And the way the program is set up, they're fixed up with other people who are on the spectrum, or they're dating people who might be normally functioning. So why is this so critically important to talk about when it comes to feeling respect or being respected by someone in relationship? What I thought was interesting, while this might be a reality show, I think it's more like a docu-series in the sense that, this can't be scripted with these autistic folks. It can't be scripted. What you're seeing is their raw, true selves. Their raw, true selves. I mean, there is no filter with these folks. Now, one of the gentlemen was 63 years old. He says he's never been on a date before in his life. Another 33-year-old man, never been on a date. Several of the women have never been on a date before, and they're in their 20s, 30s, and even 40s. So I only share this because I think those of us that are not dealing with that kind of, I don't even want to call it a condition, but we'll call it a condition for a moment, is that many of us complain about the dating marketplace, and I can only imagine what it must feel like for them. And yet what I was about to say is what I love about them is it's unfiltered. It's their raw, pure emotions. They're vulnerable, they're authentic, and they're transparent. Vulnerable, authentic, and transparent. And sometimes that vulnerability, that authenticity and transparency just gets blurted out. I know when I was watching the Australian version, and now there's a US version of the show, there was one man, and I want to say man, to me, they were children, and that's unfair for me to say. He basically said right after the date, he goes, "I don't want to see you ever again." And the way he blurted it out was, that was his truth. That was his truth. He was basically sharing his truth. And I know many of us are fearful to share our truth in a relationship because we have a fear of hurting someone's feelings. And in the US version, there was this one woman, very high functioning. She master's degree. She has her own animation company. And she literally love bombed the guy on the first date. I mean, if you're watching this, she's literally saying, "Oh my God, I'm in love with you" on the first date. And she said, "I was love struck by you." And he was this young man. I mean, he was so sincere, so friendly, and they seemed like they were going to really hit it off. And they had a second date together, and she was still expressing how attracted she was to him. But he had mentioned that he worked at Ralph's. That was interesting is on the next segment on there, they had a telephone call. She basically cut it off with him. And she was so worried about hurting his feelings. And he was devastated. He was genuinely devastated. He felt like he had been led on. And yet, to me, I don't think she meant to do anything malicious. She was being vulnerable, authentic, and transparent. She was sharing her truth. And yet, she did come on strong in the beginning. So my point is, these are humans that literally live in their raw emotions, if you will. At least that's the way I perceive it. And yet, don't we all wish we could share our truth, speak our truth in relationship? Well, I know many of you are frustrated with that because many of you are, especially those in my audience who are in midlife, which is after baby making years and before retirement. My audience is predominantly women. Many of you are dealing with men who are emotionally weak, emotionally insecure, emotionally constipated, and also that have weak relationship skills. But let me just say this, because there could be men watching this. It's true for women as well. Women also suffer in this capacity. And what I think happens is when we've had enough emotional experiences that cause us to doubt ourselves or doubt the process of really getting to know one another, we begin being more withdrawn, and it takes up a lot of emotional real estate within ourselves, unhealthy emotional real estate. And yet, sadly, I witness many women who don't speak their truth in a relationship. Why is this so critically important? Why is speaking your truth more important than hurting someone's feelings? Or worse, why is speaking your truth a fear that you might lose somebody in this relationship? Ladies, if speaking your truth causes someone to ghost, disappear, or choose not to be with you, do you really want to be with that person? Now, when I say speak your truth, as I wrote in my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, Spiritual Work. By the way, there's a link below to all the books I recommend. Chapter 1 is speak your truth, do it with kindness. Now, with the autistic people, they just blurt out their truth without a filter. Our filter should be, how can we frame our truth in a way that lands on another person? And why is this related to respect? Because, folks, just like this man who felt like he got led on, which he really wasn't, they were both enthusiastic, they both acted impetuous, and yet she realized he wasn't a good fit. Well, it was only 2 dates. It wasn't 2 months. It wasn't 20 months. It wasn't 2 years. Am I doing my math right? Speaking our truth, do it in a kind way. Here's the thing. When we really want to gain a person's respect, one of the fundamental principles in relationship is to be authentic and transparent with the person you're with. Now, this doesn't mean, like in the autistic people, you blurt out every feeling and emotion. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, authenticity and transparency, if it's material to the relationship or material to someone's decision-making about the relationship, I think it's critically important that men and women act in an authentic, transparent way with one another. Now, as I said earlier, we're dealing with a significant population of emotionally constipated people. In fact, if you're not familiar with my chart, and by the way, we have a brand new one, so I want to thank Elena for this. We have a new chart. Oops. Hold on 1 second. The 3 people actively dating today. Okay? I'm going to share this with you. As you can see on the top, at roughly about 20%, by the way, this is not a fact, it's merely an opinion. 20% of the population are users. They seek short-term gain, love bombers, players, gold diggers, entitled people, selfish people, only caring about themselves. And then while I say over here, there's the growers and builders. These are the people that seek long-term relationship. They're emotionally healthy. They're grown up, good relationship skills. They have their act together. The vast majority of everyone else are spenders. And what it means is they're going to spend time with you. Companionship, connection, sex, no direction, uncertainty, fearful. Usually have a dysfunctional life. Folks, here's the thing about respect. How can you be with somebody who respects you if they can't respect themselves, if they're users, if they're dysfunctional? These are human beings that genuinely can't respect themselves. They might have arrogance. There's certainly a lot of people with bravado and arrogance. We certainly see a significant population of men and women alike who are entitled and believe they deserve better than everyone. Yes, we have those folks. But can you really gain that person's respect if they're already on some level dysfunctional? No, you can't. Respect is going to come from those emotionally grown-up people, those people that have good relationship skills. And so while the title of this video is you're going to gain a man's respect 99% of the time, with what I'm about to share with you right now, what we're really talking about is 99% of emotionally healthy people respect what I'm about to share with you. And the vast majority of men and women are lacking that emotional maturity. So you're not going to gain their respect anyway. This is why it's critically important to vet people before you give your heart. Because as I said earlier, speak your truth, do it with kindness. Here's the more important piece. When you're sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So if you genuinely want to gain a man's respect who's a grower, a builder, someone who genuinely wants long-term commitment, well, first, you're going to have to vet that guy to determine if that's the person you're talking to. By the way, there's a link right here to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. My area of expertise is teaching you how to vet men. And vetting is a process of determining, is this person not just the chemistry piece? Do we share the same values? Do we have lifestyles that are blendable? And more importantly, are they emotionally mature? Because an emotionally mature man respects this above all, not above all else, but certainly respects this with women, are the women who genuinely have standards in a relationship. Standards. Now, here's the thing. Emotionally constipated men, emotionally unavailable men, they don't respect women, but what they do also is they disrespect a significant percentage of women who what they think are low-hanging fruit, women who are easy because they literally have no standards. These are the women that chase men, that make themselves way too available to men, that put out sexuality to gain a man's favor. These men like the short run with these women because they look at them as low-hanging fruit. And they tend to disrespect them. Here's the thing, an emotionally healthy man wouldn't disrespect a woman, but he won't certainly want to lean into a relationship with a woman who is overly aggressive because she literally has no standards and or boundaries for herself. Now, standards, what does standards look like? Look at what a standard is. Well, let me backtrack for a moment. I worked with a woman a couple of years ago, and she called me up. She's in a relationship, or she was in a relationship with a man for 9 months. And she says, "Hey, Jonathan, I'm in a relationship with a man, and I'd like more commitment out of him." I'm like, "Great. What does that look like for you?" "Well, Jonathan, I just want more commitment from him." I'm like, "Great. What does that look like for you?" "But Jonathan, I just want more commitment from him." As if speaking louder, she was actually articulating her point. All she was screaming. And then you know what she said to me next? She said, "Jonathan, you're not listening to me. You're not hearing me." I said, "You're not saying anything. If you can't describe what commitment looks like to me, how can you describe it to him?" So our standards is the framework of what a committed relationship looks like. Now, many of you know my rhetoric. I'll say it again. I say it 1,000 times. The type of relationship I initially was looking for was a relationship where we spent 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interest, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills, both in our personal and our professional life, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy that leads to either moving in together or getting married. Well, that was my standard. That was my framework. The boundary would have been if it didn't match that framework. And boundaries, I love what Brene Brown says about boundaries. If you're not familiar with Brene Brown, let me see if I have her book handy. Oh, it's there somewhere. Brene Brown, Google her. What she talks about boundaries is what's okay and what's not okay for me. Folks, when you establish the framework of what you want your relationship to look like, you're setting the standard for a man to see if he meets you where you're at. And this is going to require, as I shared before, being vulnerable, being authentic, and being transparent. Folks, Brene Brown also says vulnerability is the keystone for courage. Courage. When we can speak up. And when I shared before, our truth is merely our truth. When I say speak your truth, it merely means what you desire, what you're feeling, expressing that in a healthy way. Yet many people don't know how to communicate in a healthy way. In fact, many humans operate in a combative way. If you're not familiar with the book, Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. I wish this was named Compassionate Communication. Why? You should read this book. And again, there's a link below to all the books I recommend. Because how we deliver our message to another person, how it lands on them, will significantly determine whether or not they want to lean into a relationship with you, whether or not they respect you, if you have good, strong communication skills. Women oftentimes say to me, the key to a relationship is communication, communication, communication. Can I tell you, when I was single, and by the way, there's a picture of my beloved, I'm no longer single. In fact, we now live together. And by the way, thank you for all the many compliments I get from all of you about her. I truly appreciate it. But one of the things I recognized, oh my God, I did a squirrel. I had a train of thought and I just lost that. Now I went off track here for a moment, but coming back to vulnerability, by expressing yourself with a partner is the keystone for developing trust and, actually, more importantly, respect within one another. See, the thing about respect, how can we be in relationship with people we don't respect? Ladies, many of you are attached to men that you don't really respect. But Jonathan, I love him. But you don't really respect him because the two of you aren't communicating in a healthy way. Folks, listen, for those of us in midlife, the days in front of us are a little bit shorter than the days behind us. You have a choice to make. Do you want to make the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years of your life the best of your life? Then take charge of your relationship destiny today. Stop believing that you can just simply lean back in your feminine energy and a guy will claim you. Yeah, that sounds good. How's that really work? Do you know what? It's your standards. It's it's leaning into your sovereignty, your self-worth, your self-esteem. Genuine men who are emotionally mature men that have good relationship skills. Oh, by the way, I know where the squirrel I was going to go. Those men genuinely appreciate women who know how to articulate their standards. We are highly attracted to those types of women. Yet many of you say you're good at communication. Yet many of you are actually terrible at it, or you're fearful of it. So start getting some practice today. And by the way, let me just be clear about men. Men are buffoons when it comes to communication. Most guys are babbling idiots when it comes to communication. So I get your frustration. This is why it's important to weed out those guys that are your time wasters, those spenders, or worse, those users, and start directing your energy towards those grower and builders that I talked about before. But here's the thing. It's a limited number out there. You have a greater chance of finding someone who will waste your time. But you have a choice. Do you want to waste your time, or do you want to get better at vetting men? Do you want to get better at picking men? And the reality is as much as we all love the fantasy that it'll just fall in our lap, well, yeah, magic fairy dust works all the time. If you really want that type of relationship, then it's going to require a significant amount of effort on your part. First, by being your best self, And as I said earlier, getting crystal clear on your standards, and then putting yourself out there to be seen by single eligible people, and then doing a vetting process. And maybe if you get lucky enough with some chemistry, you find yourself in a juicy, delicious, healthy, happy relationship. And that's why I invite you all to do the work ahead of time so you can attract that in. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. If it is, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you're brand new. And just as a reminder, what men respect, they respect your standards when you certainly respect yourself. And you're crystal clear on delivering those standards in a healthy, emotionally mature way. All right. I think this will be a great place to start taking questions for those of you that know my format of my live streams. If you have a question, write the word question, then post the question thereafter. Or you can, in the chat box, there's a little $sign. You can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's the little tyke right there. Oh my God, what was his name? What was his name in Toy Story? I just went brain dead there. There was Buzz Lightyear and Woody. That's Connor right there. It's my son who passed away a few years ago. And in his honor, I've started a scholarship fund in his name to donate to causes like the Hoffman Process Insight Institute, just to name a few. And we've already raised over $3,000 through the super sticker, super chat. So thank you so much for that. And if you're watching the replay, you can purchase the super thanks as well. All right, I think this would be a great time to take questions. Just as a reminder, again, write the word question, then post the question thereafter. Let's see what we have in the board. May says, indeed, I agree, Jonathan. Thank you so much. Yvonne says, beautiful presentation. Thank you so much. Jean says, I completely agree. Thank you so much. Linda says, I want to get better at picking better. Absolutely. Yes. Chemistry does not equal relationship success. Compatibility through shared values, blendable lifestyles, and emotional maturity. That's the ingredient to relationship success, with chemistry, of course. Okay. Pretty asks, what are 3 top qualities you looked for in a partner? You know, the brat in me was going to say something. I think first and foremost, and it's one of the things I really respected most in my partner, is when we first met, she actually shared something very vulnerable with me because she felt it was material to the relationship, and it's private between us, so I don't want to share it. But I really respected her transparency. And sometimes that transparency hurts. I mean, she sometimes says things, not unfiltered per se, but she speaks her truth. Sometimes hurt is a strong word. It stings a little bit. Let's just say that. Pricks a little. I respect that. The second thing that I love about her, she is so chill. She is so chill. She has she's just like easygoing. I got to tell you something. A lot of women I dated, prior to meeting her, I mean, no offense to you ladies, but many of you are a pain in the ass. I mean, it's like pulling teeth to try to not just arrange a date, but just connect with you. I mean, what I love about her, she's just chill. And most importantly, she's got an agreeable personality. She's very easygoing, and it's not like pulling teeth. Now, some people could say she's not in her masculine energy. That's not masculine or feminine. Agreeability is not a masculine or feminine trait. It's a character trait that says, I'd rather be happy than being right. People that want to be right are in a righteous they're in a controlling behavior. That's not masculine or feminine. That's just, annoying. Controlling behavior is just annoying to me. So the 3 qualities: her transparency, she's very chill, and she's got an agreeable personality. And lastly, she's smoking hot. I dig her looks. Okay. Thank you so much, Pretty, for that. All right. Question. When you first met online, is there a line of questioning you should begin with so that you know whether or not you're wasting your time? Great question. So this is part of what I do in my private coaching here. I think one of the first questions you should ask is, what does commitment look like for you? What does a relationship look like for you? Now, the words look like, because a lot of guys will say, I want a relationship, I want a relationship. Well, what does that look like for you? Like, get a calendar out and describe what it looks like. What does it look like on Monday? What's it look like on Tuesday? What's it look like on Wednesday? What's it look like on Thursday? What's it look like on Friday? What's it look like on Saturday and Sunday? And then for January, February, March, April, May, get a sense of what this person thinks it looks like. Many of you know I've said 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, doing shared activities, hobbies. A lot of people, men, listen, a lot of men are fucking clueless. They're winging it. They're winging it. They're winging it. And you want them to be the leaders of the relationship. I find that incredibly just laughable. You want men to be the leaders of the relationship. Ladies, you're giving the job to the wrong person. Most men are fucking clueless. But Jonathan, I'm not attracted to a clueless guy. Guess what? A lot of men, most men are trainable too. Believe me, my girlfriend trained me. She likes to have a nice, clean home on a regular basis. I was a bachelor. I was a beach bum kind of guy. Look at, I wore jeans and flip-flops. Look at me now. You know, she liked that more debonair look. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. Men, when they genuinely care for someone, we want to make you happy. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on that one. So thank you so much. Holly says, great question. What does it look like? Exactly. Describe it on a calendar. What does it look like? You can determine if he's clueless or not in that very question. All right. All right. Next question from Mimi. I met a guy once and he wanted to see me again. He told me he had been very busy with work and ended up working on his days off. How should I go about this to find out if he is legitimately interested? So call him up, tell him, look, let's go out Thursday night, my treat. If he blows you off, just say next. Look at, don't invest. Okay, remember I talked about emotional real estate earlier? Okay, here, let me make it simple for you. Everybody listen to this. I want you to follow the 3, 2, 1, 3 approach. 3, 2, 1, 3. Okay. That's no more than 3 email or text exchanges, should lead to no more than 1 or 2 phone calls, that should lead to 1 date, all happening in a 3-week period of time. And that's okay. The date should happen within 3 weeks. That's it. And by the way, ladies, you should be doing this with multiple men. I have no problem with you prospecting multiple men at the same time. I'm just not a big proponent of dating multiple people at the same time. And just know this, a first date is not a date, it's a meeting, okay? So I'm all in favor for prospecting as many men at the same time. Schedule a bunch of first meets. But if you begin dating someone, date one person at a time. 3, 2, 1, 3, okay? All right, hope that helps. Thank you. Barbara says, Jonathan, you look classy. I love a man in a suit. Most of the men on the dating apps are sloppy looking. Hey, you know, I was a bit sloppy looking too. So I'm thankful for my sweetheart for upping the ante for me. All right, if you have a question, write the word question, post the question thereafter, or purchase a super sticker or super thanks. That way I can see it really quickly. If we don't have any questions come in, the live stream is going to be cut short. And if you have a personal question of me, feel free to ask it as well. Let's see what we have here. Let's go swim in. Let's go swim in. Colleen says, I'm so happy for you, Jonathan. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. She's also reading the 4 Agreements. I love that book. Where is my 4 Agreements? Right here. Folks, if you're not familiar with the 4 Agreements, read this book. There's a link below. Always do your best. Always do your best. Projections of others or people's opinion of you is a projection. People's opinion of you is their projection of you. Don't make assumptions and be impeccable with your word. The 4 Agreements. Highly recommend reading that. Thank you so much for suggesting that, Colleen. I appreciate it. All right. Let's go swim in. Oh, here we go. Catherine says, it's very easy to speak my truth since it's done in a loving, good, heart-oriented manner. Way to go, Catherine. Colleen says, question. What is a gal to say to a gentleman that put on the brakes to be in an exclusive relationship and then reaches out months later to say, hi, how are you? Yet doesn't ask you out? So this is a common thing. A man expresses, I'm assuming he expressed interest, and then he put the brakes on, and then some time passed, and then he reaches out. He's fishing. Okay, he's fishing for number one. Number two, a lot of men are bad daters, so they want you to make the effort. So listen, with these guys, I like to fuck with them a little bit. I know that sounds crass and it sounds a little bit mischievous and devious, but when I say I like to fuck with them, ask him out and see what he says. See how he reacts. And then ghost him. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. But make some effort and see what happens just to explore. You can sit back and be curious in the sense of, oh, I wonder what he's thinking. I wonder what he's thinking. Or you can be proactive and find out what he's thinking. Or you can simply say, hey, in full transparency, you seemed interested. You blew me off. Why are you reaching out to me? Be blunt. Okay. Just like the autistic children or adults I was talking about. Have no filter. Be blunt. But there's no sense in trying to figure out what he's thinking because you know what? It doesn't matter. You can ask the question to find out what he's thinking. Or you can ask him out on a date and see if he says yes. And when I say date, ask him out for a drink. All right? Hope that helps. Thank you so much. Mimi says, thank you for answering that. I love how you tell it like it is. Thank you. Colleen says, I was actually thinking of asking him out. There you go. Jennifer says, I'm blunt with guys. Blunt with class, because we can be blunt, we can do it with a lot of crass, but I say do it with a lot of class. And that is, sometimes just say, I'm really curious. It seems really odd that you're reaching out to me after you blew me off. What's up? I'm just curious. You can start sentences with I'm curious. Or you can start the sentence in full transparency, okay? Be curious. But trying to figure out what men do is an exercise in futility. So don't bother, okay? All right. Barbara says, if you want to find quality men, join Inner Circle. Gotcha. Holly says, I like your answer, Jonathan. I'll do the same thing. Definitely be blunt. Again, blunt is speaking your truth and doing it in a kind way. Jennifer says, it is classy blunt, genuine and authentic. Exactly. Not like those, what's that TV show, New Jersey something or other, Jersey Shore, where those folks have no filter and they're crass and they speak their truth in a very caustic and antagonistic way. That's not just because they think they speak their truth, but to do it in a caustic, antagonistic way, that's just mean-spirited. That's just mean-spirited. We don't have to share every thought we have. By the way, the average human has somewhere between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts. You don't have to share every thought with a person. Share those that have value that can actually make a difference in your person's life. And criticism isn't, there's constructive criticism, but a lot of times criticism is a form of toxic advice. Toxic advice. Lean into that for a second. Criticism could be toxic advice. In other words, it's designed to hurt someone's feelings. I don't believe that's healthy criticism. I don't believe that's constructive criticism, even if they've twisted in their mind to believe it is. Speak your truth. Do it in a kind way. That's my invitation for everyone. All right. Thank you so much for that. All right. As I wrote in my book and what Catherine says, being authentic, transparent, unique, sincere, honest are traits that exist long before midlife dating. So sharing it with a gentleman isn't any effort. Respect comes from this natural flow. Exactly. Marianne says, question. If on the first date, the man is talking about his ex-wife who left him, he is not over her. Should I date him or he needs healing? He is divorced a long time and very interested in me. So, one of the challenges dating people that are hurt from their past relationships or are mourning their past relationships is that oftentimes bleeds into any new relationship. And the tricky part is a new relationship can actually help a person get over a previous relationship. That is true. However, it depends on how much residue was left. So if he was genuinely hurt by someone and he's done zero healing work, they say time heals all wounds. No, personal development, self-help, and spiritual work and therapy heals wounds, okay? Time just makes you possibly forget, okay? True healing comes from introspective work, inner work. So, you're gambling with a person. Let me read this again. Left his wife. Man is talking about his ex-wife who left him. Men are very territorial. If a woman leaves a man, that leaves more of a sting. Women are, okay, let me say something. Men emotionally are less resilient than women. That's right. Women, I think, have a capacity to heal from an ending of a relationship better than a man, because usually a man's ego is bruised significantly and men have weaker, this is a generalization, so I don't want to make it as an absolute, but I do believe men, if a man truly gave his heart to a woman, men fall in love maybe once or twice in their life, if they ever do, once or twice. If a man deeply loved a woman and he felt betrayed, it's a roll of the dice of whether or not he's going to be ready for a relationship. Now, I'm not suggesting women don't feel the same way. I think women are more resilient emotionally than men. That's all. I just believe that. But that's my opinion anyway. All right. Thank you for that question, Marianne. I appreciate it. Lee says, question. Why don't you do a video on dating a widow and difficulties involved in that? I think I did a video a while back on dating widowers. I think part of the reason why I don't lean into that too much, because thankfully that's not something I've experienced in my life. I think widowers are, it depends. Widowers are a challenging breed to be in relationship with, especially depending on how the person passed away, number one, and how deeply they were in love with each other prior to that. So it's important to find out how the person passed away, how long ago they passed away, and how deeply in love they were with that person that did pass away. And I think if it was recent, if it was sudden, so if it was a recent passing away, a sudden passing away, and they deeply love the person, it's going to take longer time for that person to heal than someone who might have experienced cancer for a decade, and it was 10 years ago that the person passed away, and they had a mediocre relationship. Okay, so I'm just giving you just a little barometer there. All right, thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. Stormy Blue says, I lived with a widower. They are challenging. Exactly. Hey, Elena, just want to thank you so much for the new card. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. Very sweet of you to make that for me. Thank you so much. Big hugs to you. So everyone give props to Elena. Thank you. Marianne says, thank you. All right. Do we have any more questions tonight? Or are we going to have a short live stream? Now I'm going to come back to the show, Love on the Spectrum. You know what's interesting about this show? I don't really see the participants worried about how tall the guy is, how attractive she is. They really are dating from what appears of a more innocent, certainly a childlike perspective, many of them. Our ego gets in the way of love. It's a saboteur of love, is our ego. Ultimately, certainly feeling attracted to your partner is critically important. But what's more important is their character. Their character. Part of that is your values. Part of that is their ability to lean into and have a capacity to be in a relationship. And more importantly, their emotional maturity and relationship skills. I've been reading a book. I want to share a book with you all. It's called Marriage Ain't for Punks by Calvin Robertson. He's on the show Married at First Sight, Reverend Cal. And I've just started reading this book, or I've delved into a little bit. What I find fascinating about it is it's like, look, many of you out there are in relationships with a bunch of punks. And what I mean is immature people. The show Love on the Spectrum are sadly humans that struggle with that level of maturity. But most of us have this capacity to genuinely grow beyond our limitations if we choose to do the work, to do the inner work. Self-love is an exploration of personal development, self-help, and spiritual work. And if you follow my channel, I indoctrinate this into you every single day. I shoot a video. It's the invitation to be introspective, to look inward and say, how can I be the best version of myself so I can attract that person? And sadly, here in the United States, we are such an entitled environment. Many people are suckling on the nipple of, I need you to love me so I can feel good about myself. And I'm here to say, when you genuinely love yourself, you become a magnetic attractor for those who have a capacity to love you. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. All right, let's see what else we got today for questions. I was pontificating for a little bit. Claudia says, what is the best advice you have received? What is the best advice you've received? Nothing comes to mind. It's interesting enough. I think I've been blessed with so many friends. Let me reframe that. I've been blessed with a few key friends who help me see my blind spots. And I have an inner circle of friends who help me on many occasions see what I can't see within myself. I can't think of one piece of advice that stands out amongst them all. Probably the most important one is to when Connor passed away, I think I learned the deepest lesson of all is to be in absolute gratitude of every single day of my life. So I'm grateful for my circle of friends who speak their truth with me to help me with my blind spots. But more importantly, one thing I make sure to do every day is to count my blessings, and more importantly, express those to those that I love. With this beautiful woman, I express gratitude multiple times a day. Ladies, you have a capacity to lead by example by starting to express your gratitude in a relationship, and you'll see quickly whether or not a person can lean into it. So that's my invitation for everyone to. Anyway, thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. Let's see. How do you tell a guy to do the work? You can't tell a man to do inner work. You can only invite them. You can't tell them to do it. One of the things I always recommend, ladies, before the penis goes inside the vagina is you buy a copy of the book 8 Dates by Drs. John and Julie Gottman. You read chapter 1 first, and then if you want to build a relationship with a guy, he reads it with you. This will help. Well, Jonathan, he's turned off by that. Ladies, if a man is turned off by reading a good book to help your relationship, what does that say about his desire to be in a good relationship? Invite him is my invitation for you. Thank you so much. Holly says it. Oh, wait. I'll get to that. Holly says this definitely resonates. Thank you. Wanda writes, any old school gentleman left? Is it okay for couples to have a space but still date? First off, I'm not an old school gentleman. Let me be clear about that. I'm not an old school gentleman because I don't subscribe to the tradition. Partially because, believe it or not, it used to be women were treated as second-class citizens by those so-called gentlemen you're talking about. Women were treated like property by those so-called gentlemen you talk about. What's important to me is not tradition. What's important to me is, does someone show up as a gentleman? And does a woman show up as a true lady? And a true lady is a woman empowered within herself. She's not dependent upon a man, nor is she expectant of anything from a man. They both show up with integrity. They both follow the book, the four agreements. It's one of the reasons why I continually tell you all to read the book. Where is it? If the Buddha dated, because it throws out the bullshit gender rhetoric and says, stop focusing on masculine and feminine, start focusing on individual heart. That's my invitation for you all. All right, we have time for a few more questions. Let's see. Question, how do you start to learn to love yourself? First off, speak your truth. Do it with kindness. Here, I'll read you chapters from my book, the chapter titles. Let me just read it to you. Speak your truth. Do it with kindness. Stop effing complaining. You're human. Mistakes happen. If something feels off, it is. Don't let anyone F with your chi. Be of service to humanity. Take responsibility for your choices. Everything happens for you and not to you. If it's sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing. Your body is a machine, not a temple. I have to remember that one. The importance of community. Develop a tribe. Your thoughts create your feelings. Heal your childhood wounds. Choose love over ego. And there's 15 more chapters. So I think that answers your question, Rose. I hope that helps. Thank you so much. Let me know if that helps. Nancy says, question, I've been talking to a man for a month. Text, phone calls, and FaceTime. He was making the effort, which meant a lot. I think there's more, so fill out the rest of that so I know what your real question is, Nancy. Thank you so much. All right, let's see. Holly says, I'm going to buy the book. Jonathan, it sounds good. I read this book. If the Buddha dated, I read it in one sitting. I love this book, so check it out. All right, let's keep going. And Nancy says, sorry, I didn't post the question. So what is the question, Nancy? Had a date planned this Friday. Okay, good. You have a date planned. Yay. It sounds like this is how it's supposed to work. You talk on the phone, you text, you do FaceTime, and you have a date plan. That's the way it's supposed to work. Annie says, yes, heal your childhood wounds is crucial. Still have to work on that one. We all have work to do on that one. Rose says, yes, it does help. Thank you so much. I'm happy to hear that. Okay, so now here's the final part to her question. She says, then he goes quiet. How do I approach that? Okay. There's a variety of reasons why a man might make effort and then go cold, okay? He could be talking to several women at the same time, number one. You might have said something that was a turnoff to him, number two. He might be scared for a variety of different reasons. He might have issues going on in his life, okay? I'm like, look, cut to the chase. Text him and say, hey, do you still want to connect or not? If you don't, I just want to write you off my checklist, okay? You know, I'm rather than wondering why he's doing it, just take proactive action. You can just sit in your feminine and do nothing. I'd rather you lean into your proactiveness and say, dude, what the fuck is going on? You seemed interested. Did your penis fall off or something? I'm being rhetorical, everyone. Reach out and simply say, hey, Tim, it seemed like you're interested and you've gone quiet. Are you okay? And are you still interested? And if you're not, I just want you to know that's okay. And I wish you all the best. Try that. Okay, Nancy? Good luck on that one. Hi from South Africa. Having an issue with the guy I'm seeing the past 9 months. I'm trying not to be needy, so I don't answer his messages immediately. He's going crazy because I don't answer immediately. Mandy, I am not a big proponent of operating that way. I'm not a big proponent of operating that way. What all you're doing is creating unnecessary anxiety for him. But it's really a sign between the two of you that you don't have healthy communication to begin with, because you're trying not to be needy, but by being delayed, you're causing his neediness to come out. So how about you guys have a serious, genuine conversation about your communication? Because look, two needy people, they don't tend to work well in relationship. Two avoidant people tend not to work well in relationship. A needy and avoidant person doesn't work well in a relationship. The best relationships tend to be people that are what's called secure. If you're not familiar with the book Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller, I highly recommend checking this out so you can learn about the 3 primary love attachment styles. So my invitation for you is have a heart-centered conversation with them, read the book together, and then talk about how your communication will be improved going forward. Is this sinking in with everyone? Please let me know if it's resonating with you. All right, this will be our last post here. Jonathan, thank you. I found the right guy. He told me he was in love with me all the time, and now he proposed and we're getting married. I've done everything you said. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yay! I'm so happy to hear that. In fact, Barbara says congratulations. Elena says congratulations. So I'm really happy for you. Colleen says, I'm grateful I was able to be here tonight. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for how real you are and how sharing your knowledge. Great show. Wonderful content. Thank you so much. All right, this will be the last question of the evening right here. Question, KB. How do I attract an older man? I have something specific in mind. Older men, listen. You have no problem attracting older men. There are plenty of older men who want younger women. So just put yourself out on the dating apps. That's how you attract them. That's a real simple one. All right. Sherry says, great answer, Jonathan. It happens to me too. They plan a date, go silent. Nice to know. I should reach out, ask, check it off instead of wondering. Exactly. All right. Ethel says, question. Thank you, Jonathan. I did everything you said, and I can tell you how a man says, I love you all the time, and we're engaged. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, folks. I think this will be a great place to wrap up today. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to share this evening. I truly appreciate all the kind, loving compliments you share to me, as well as my beloved who's right there. And yes, we are going to get her on camera soon. In fact, most likely next week, she's joining my private group called Midlife Love Mastery. There's a link below if you want to see her live in our group. She's going to be on next week. All right. I think this will be a great place to wrap up this video today. First off, I want to give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow. There's a teddy bear, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Annie and Linda and Holly and Michelle and Corny Cobb and Sherry and Pretty Disabled and Peggy and Lana and Ethel and Rose and Nancy and KB and Elena. Thank you again, Barbara, Colleen. Thank you all so much. Wishing you a fab evening. Take care. Bye now.